So yes, good morning everybody. Welcome to our Lichfield and Tamworth Chambers of Commerce Festival of Business webinar with Lichfield District Council and Make It in Stoke and staffs. It's great to have so many people with us. I can see a few people's faces on the screens as I present, but it really is a pleasure to have you all here. This is the second event in a series of 5 that we're running this week alongside a whole sort of range of webinars across all of our different divisions. For those of you who aren't aware, my name's Chris Brewitt and I head up I'm the Divisional Director for Sutton Coldfield, Lichfield and Tamworth Chambers, and also work with the Greater Birmingham Chambers, which is our parents group for those of you who aren't aware. As discussed, we have various other sort of divisional and regional divisions within the Chamber, so Birmingham, Solihull, Burton, Cannock, Lichfield and Tamworth and Sutton Coldfield. All of those chambers are doing some work around promoting their members and sort of important issues facing towns and areas and cities within their groups through the course of June. This is culminating with our global trade conference at the end of June, linked to our transatlantic and Commonwealth chambers as well. And in between some of these events, there'll be some future faces, which is for young professionals, and also our Asian Business Chamber will be hosting various events sort of linked to these different sort of main events through the course of the month. So really worth you looking onto our events and getting booked on some more of those. The Festival of Business is sponsored by Aston University, so a massive thank you to Aston for their support of the event, and it's great to have everybody here today. There is the hashtag GBCC FOB21, so if you are looking to sort of work on social media and promote your attendance here and talk about the event, then please use that hashtag when posting. Few sort of updates on the events coming up this week specifically. We've got a Regeneration opportunity in Tamworth with Tamworth Council and South Staffordshire College discussing the town centre and the plans with the future High Streets funds tomorrow. At the same time, we also then have hospitality in Sutton Coldfield with Moor Hall, Lee Marston and the Belfry Friday morning, and then Friday lunchtime, the return of tourism in Lichfield and Tamworth with Visit Lichfield, Tamworth Castle and Lichfield Festival. So really a great opportunity for you to hear from some of those relatively well-known members talking about some of their areas of expertise and how they are looking to hopefully bounce back as the pandemic moves to its next stage, hopefully better for everybody. Final one is the application deadline for our Greater Birmingham Annual Awards. The event itself is at the end of July. The application deadline for that event is this Friday. So get your applications in. And I know Lauren, having worked with the Chamber for many years previously, will attest how great those awards are and will support us, I'm sure, in spreading the word. So thank you, everyone. Last thing on the COVID-19 support grid. Again, this is a grid that we've been sort of running since March of last year now. Seems so long ago, and it's changed so many times, mostly linked to a lot of the local council sort of support that is now being offered. We've touched on this perhaps a little bit later, but well worth keeping an idea and an update on that as the pandemic sort of response changes and there's more sort of grants available through Staffordshire Council in Lichfield and Tamworth case, and also the local councils as well, to really sort of help businesses move forward and away from the restrictions as we go. So moving on to today, I think everybody can see that if I move my box out of the way. We welcome us to Lauren Hunt, who's Make It in Stoke and staffs, and Jonathan Percival, Lichfield District Council. We were hoping for Caroline Mayer and Doug Pullen to be with us, linked to those organisations, but in the spirit of positive news, there's a big ministerial visit taking place later this week, and both have been called out to some planning areas. Very late notice for that, but it's great to have Lauren and Jonathan here with us. They are the sort of the feet on the ground, so to speak. So really, it would give us a really good sort of indication of what's happening with both these organisations linked to Lichfield and also a wider Staffordshire point from Lauren. There'll be presentations from the speakers with a Q&A at the end of and at the end of the 2 presentations, we'll ask some questions. If you do have more detailed questions for Caroline, Lauren will try and answer those. But if there are some questions that Lauren isn't quite as sort of clued up on, we will be able to send those over to Caroline and get an answer back to you. So please do still use the chat box for those questions. The chat box is open, of course, to use. Following the presentations, at about 12:15, depending on time scales, we'll have a short 5-minute interval where everyone can just go and grab a cup of coffee or pop to the loo and come back, and then we'll be going into breakout rooms for some networking to reflect on the themes that have raised and to give a 3-minute introduction about your business. So please do stay on and join us for that. That'll take around half an hour, 45 minutes till about 1 o'clock, and we'll be finished by 1 at the latest. A delegate list, presentations, and also the recording of the webinar will be sent to all registered delegates tomorrow. And yeah, we really appreciate your input. So get asking those questions on the chat boxes, and we'll start the Q&A after the presentation. So it gives me great pleasure to stop sharing my screen for a start and pass over to Jonathan Percival at Lichfield District Council. Jonathan's been an absolute sort of bedrock of support to so many businesses linked to the council support for many months, far too months that we all really want to think about, but really interesting, and hopefully this webinar really gives a platform for us to look forward and a bit more positively towards the future, to talk about some of the inward investment and some of the things that are happening linked to council and make it in Stoke and staff. So Jonathan, the floor is yours, over to you, and please use the chat box for the questions, and we'll come on to Lauren after. Jonathan, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction, Chris, and morning all. I'll just try and work soon to share my screen. I'm a teamer usually now. This should work, and I believe I'm up and running. Great, thank you. So yeah, as Chris said, I'm Jonathan Percival, and I'm the Economic Development Officer at Lichfield District Council. So very much supporting the local economic growth really of the district, local businesses, inward investment, supporting local businesses expand, local businesses start up, and attract them into the district as well. As Chris has said, the theme of this presentation or webinar this morning is kind of regeneration opportunities within Lichfield District, also working alongside our regional partner, Make It Stoke and Staffs as well. So what the content I'm going through today is focusing on the regeneration element of the district, or Lichfield City in particular, but also looking at other opportunities that have happened to support the future growth of the local district, whilst also looking at growth and development sites and what we've been doing, or projects we've been undertaking in the short term as well, to support getting businesses, visitors and residents back into the high street safely. So first, looking at the Lichfield City Centre Master Plan, very much the major future growth for Lichfield City Centre and the planning for that. I'm sure a lot of you do know about it. The work that's currently been undertaken to date, obviously looking at the master plan overall, but as well the smaller elements of it, do focus on the idea of the car parking strategy, which did go out for online consultation or survey later last year, early this year, looking at developing a detailed car parking strategy for the long-term for car parks in Lichfield City, where they would work strategically, but as well where the most popular ones are. What can we do with the sites that are less popular or less used in respect of that? There's also currently been undertaken a public realm strategy as well. So industry experts in kind of leads, projects and construction consultants have been appointed to prepare this strategy for ourselves and kind of assisting with the development and implementation of it. So looking at public realm and the growth of it locally as well, and making it more user friendly, but as well making sure it fits within kind of the local area needs as well. Then also being undertaken is a pedestrianisation feasibility study. So you would have seen through Lichfield City Centre, if you've been recently, these long, tall kind of masts, or not poles really, I won't go as far as masts, working with the Staffordshire County Council to look at the feasibility study in the impact of full pedestrianisation in the city centre. So very much looking at what that option would look like, how it may impact on kind of local businesses, residents' uses of it, and the kind of existing use as well, really, in respect of that. Obviously, the idea of green infrastructure, kind of low carbon, carbon neutral initiative, that wording's been flying around quite a lot recently, and it's come more to the forefront of the carbon initiatives. So we are looking at developing a brief that will allow us to get a consultant to help us create that green infrastructure strategy as well, to be part of the city centre master plan and see in the kind of commercial aspect, the residential as well, if looking at it in possibility, but also public realm, where that green infrastructure can be brought forward as well in respect of that. And there's also the Birmingham Road site as well. So just off where the old police station was, I'm sure a lot of you know where it is, but also connecting, as I said, good routes, a central point for the train and bus station as well, to look at the future options of that. So a commercial property advisor has been appointed for that, to look at the long-term use of it. How can it fit within the city centre's growth overall? How can it connect the main public transport links of the train and bus station? And there has been short-term work to establish it as a car park in the short term until a long-term ambition or option is reviewed in the future and comes forward, really. As you can see, with a lot of these, we are looking to engage with the public in due course about these different elements as well, because we want that resident and business feedback on these different elements and how it will impact them, but as well what they'd like to see as well, and what will be viable, kind of going into account of what will be viable as well. So it very much all works together really to create that overall city centre master plan. And it's just not just one city master plan overall, but these different elements and these smaller projects help produce it. Going on from this will be the our key development sites. So Lichfield District is very popular due to our excellent transport link to the M6 toll, A5, A38, also the train links and bus routes as well. And all our kind of key development sites which remain popular. They all have varying structures, attract very different types of businesses, office, industrial, some sites with just brownfield site land as well, which remains popular. With a bit of an update for kind of specific sites. So obviously Fradley Park was one of our main ones. There has been lots of news about the ASOS expansion onto the site. So they're currently doing the works around that ready to be operational by the end of the year. Hawkins Logistics, who actually moved onto the site, I say fairly recently, more early 2020. They're actually done so well throughout the pandemic. They're expanding even further on the site, which is great to see. They're not looking at other options. Fradley Park works for them quite well. They have gone into one of the units on the Wellington Trilogy. So the top photo on this slide, that's the Wellington Trilogy that was established finished early 2020. So they moved into one of the bigger units there, and then gone to another vacant site the other side of the site as well. Within the Wellington Trilogy, the only unit that remains is Pegasus 50, which is the one in the middle, whilst also the overall site remains popular. There's not many vacancies or available brownfields or greenfield sites within it really, so it's become really popular and remains it, especially with logistics and manufacturing and engineering businesses. Burnwood Business Park, on the other hand, physical geography wise and the size of it is quite similar to Fradley Park, but also the units are very different, so attracting quite a different range of businesses. So there is availability of the smaller units and also the medium-sized mid-box units as used. So that remains popular with warehouse, engineering, manufacturing, distribution. So we always get quite a few inquiries about the various sizes of units on there. Whilst also there is Liberty Park, which is just off the A38 near Streetley. The units there have been available for some time, but have gained quite a lot of interest. And thankfully, unfortunately, they have interest has gone over the line now with only one unit remaining available, and they've been to suit as well. So it's great to see that throughout the pandemic, that popularity remains and those growth in those development sites do continue, not only just in the short term, but long term as well, and making sure that we have that stock. There's also Lichfield South Business Park, which is very different to the other park, development park that I've mentioned as well, because it does have that mixed use of a office space and also the kind of retail food and drink as well. There is phase 3 of that, which is 11.3 acres of commercial land, and there is opportunities and ongoing discussions about expanding the site onto that with B1 use onto it. We're also looking at, as part of my kind of inward investment strand, establishing more marketing material in the future. We do remain understanding that businesses aren't just looking to move here for the business, but also for their employees as well. obviously capture them locally, but take some. So we want to kind of get that balance in our marketing material of showcasing the district, not just in respect of its sites and the business aspect, but also what's it like living here, what facilities are available for families to settle down, employees to settle down as well, and that attraction of that, and also the transport links as well. So we're looking at creating an investment campaign in the future to kind of attract further growth in businesses in the area. So that's something coming up, which is quite looking forward to. Going on to the kind of short term with reopening the high street and obviously the pandemic, each local authority was given some monies to look at, well, help with reopening the high street kind of businesses after the first lockdown, aiming at with strict criteria of COVID safety messaging, public safety campaigns. We've utilised this funding as it is ERDF funding with quite strict guidance on what can be spent on in kind of communications and be public and business facing. So you would have seen around the district, love local messaging, posters, banners, board coverings, quite vibrant colours, just to kind of reiterate and inform that the different messaging about COVID safety and the rules in place, but also as well to try and attract residents safely back into those local businesses and high streets and centres, and working with businesses on make sure those measures are in place, but also trying to make people shop, well, support people shop locally, and as well attracting visitors quite safely into the district as well. So we've also got a information officer role in place, Rebecca Sheldon, who's enrolled until March 2022. She's been very useful in on-the-ground support, meeting with businesses, providing business packs, emailing, engaging and giving advice and guidance from central government, but also helping ourselves understand what businesses' needs are at the moment, what support we can offer, bringing that back to us and seeing what we can do in respect of helping businesses safely, but also carry on in the longevity of things. There's also temporary public realm changes as well, with in Lichfield City, planters providing, allowing better social distancing as well. So allowing better passing for residents and visitors as well. Going on to the Welcome Back Fund, this is pretty much an extension of the Reopening the High Street Safely Fund into this year with reopening the high streets and centres. So we're looking at continuing that local campaign, supporting those independent businesses and getting that message out there, and PR about the good news stories for independents, understanding how they've adapted and evolved during the pandemic, but also they're still there, there's still services and products there, so why not shop locally for that? Obviously I mentioned the Information Officer role, which has been fantastic throughout the pandemic, also reopening. We're looking at continuing with that. A marketing campaign within Christmas, next Christmas, as we appreciate. Last Christmas there was a bit of obviously the lockdown and the issues with distancing, but as well the strict lockdown criteria. So we're hoping, touch wood, that this Christmas we can get a good marketing campaign in place. And we're also looking at exploring other options around public realm and attracting football safely into the district. So this kind of funding did have strict kind of criteria, looking at helping attract residents and businesses back, but also shopping safely and supporting those businesses in getting that custom back in. Going on to the kind of looking at the future policy perspective of things, as we can't really miss that out. At the end of the day, regeneration opportunities do come and do fit, especially with obviously planning in respect of how the long term, how it will be shaped within policy, looking at physical, economic, social, environmental characteristics. Every local authority have local plans in place, and ours currently is having a review, as a lot do over time, because they do cover long time frames, and we understand that over short periods of time things do change. So we need to make sure that we're obviously meeting the regulation by central government in planning policy, and, but also looking at making sure that it suits local needs as well. So there was a consultation done at the end of 2019, early 2020, looking at different options. So that happened throughout the district in a kind of a pop-up manner, really, asking residents with businesses for their comments. And then from 2020 until early 2021, after the public consultation over feedback, that helped feed into the local plan, provide that supporting evidence base. There was also a draft publication version of it going to Cabinet early this year. And what we're looking as well is doing a consultation on kind of the publication of the local plan 2040 later this year. So it'd be really good to obviously get feedback from businesses, but residents, and I guess visitors as well, in what they think of what being put forward, how they feel about it, what they think may be put in as well. And it's really getting that involvement in the long-term growth of the district, as well as looking at those short-term opportunities as well. So that's really looking at this presentation, the regeneration element, but also what's currently in place, but how yourselves as businesses and residents can get involved in the longer term planning and schemes of things, really. So I will finish my presentation there and go on to the Q&A after obviously the presentations have taken place. So back to you, Chris.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. And yeah, my first question which we'll bring up is what will Lichfield look like in 2040? So I'll give you 5 minutes to look at your crystal ball, and we'll see what the key developments will be in that case. But no, really interesting. Hopefully that's given everyone a sort of a real local, sort of hyper local view of Lichfield. You know, we all have a huge passion for the city and for the town and for the area, and yeah, certainly taking my family to Beacon Park over the weekend, it was lovely to see it so open, so positive, and hopefully that continues with support of local businesses moving forward. So thank you, Jonathan. Wonderful. I wanted to bring in Lauren now. So Lauren works with Make It in Stoke and Staffs, former Chamber stalwart for many years at the Chamber as well. So it's great to have Lauren with us today, deputising for Caroline. So Lauren, if you just want to go through the presentation, and as I said, we'll then open the Q&A, and yeah, we'll sort of work with you on the questions if there are any asks sort of moving forward. So Lauren, over to you to talk about sort of the broader Staffordshire plans too.
Sure, thanks Chris, and morning everyone. I'll just get these slides up. Okay, fab. So obviously I'm not Caroline. Chris has already mentioned that. Again, she's been called into some urgent ministerial visits. So my name's Lauren, and I head up all of our marketing campaigns and digital work for Make It Stoke and Staffs. So in case you don't know us or you haven't heard from us, we work on behalf of Staffordshire County Council, Stoke-on-Trent City Council, and the Local Enterprise Partnership to attract investment into the area and support existing companies to grow. So we're really here to lobby for the area, raise awareness of the opportunities here, and again work on the ground with businesses. So in terms of the work that we do, we're here to bring investment into the region. So we're here to shout about Staffordshire, Stoke-on-Trent, what a great place it is to do business. But we also do a lot of unique service providing. So we work with a range of businesses to basically make their lives easier when they are, you know, looking to grow here or relocate. So that could be with industry and market research. Again, you know, we are local authority, so we can help with that research. One example with ASOS, which you may have heard, are making a big move to Lichfield over the next 3 years with 2,000 jobs. We supplied skills information, transport information for them to help them make that decision. We help with the supply chain and negotiating. So again, we work with the planning teams, the property teams, transport teams. So if businesses are needing help with planning permission or to install a new bus stop outside their work for their employees, then we can really help with that. We also have the largest and most up-to-date commercial property database. So again, we can help with identifying suitable sites for businesses. That's, you know, especially for a company who may be relocating or opening a new site from overseas. So if it's foreign direct investment, they don't know the area. So that's where our investment managers can come in and just really help with that local knowledge. We can help with advice on grants, loans and incentives. So we're getting a lot of questions around green funding at the moment. So if you were to make a warehouse with no lighting, some more see-through roofs or anything like that, then we can help with those grants and council support for that. And then we also help with skills training and recruitment on a local level as well. So we do a lot of that on the ground work, but we also do the wider work where we, you know, attend events on behalf of the area, and we work on a lot of huge projects such as the Ceramic Valley Enterprise Zone in Stoke-on-Trent or the I-54, which is in the South Staffs, Wolverhampton area. In terms of what Staffordshire has to offer as a place, I mean, I'm sure you will be very local anyway. So lifestyle, we believe Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent has that livability elements. You know, you can go from market towns to business parks to parks, lakes, canals. You know, it has that lovely lifestyle elements. In terms of the connectivity, we're at the heart of the country. So we obviously have the M6 network, trains to London in an hour and 20 minutes. And then we have 3 airports within a 100-mile radius. So we have that connectivity for businesses. Again, moving on to the location, we're right in between the West Midlands, East Midlands and North West, which are obviously the major engines of UK growth. And also affordability. So that's a huge factor for businesses, especially post-COVID. You know, we're looking at businesses relocating to Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent because we offer that cheaper premises. So if you are paying a huge amount of rent in Birmingham, do you need that city centre office anymore? Or could you find a cheaper office space in Stoke and Staffs? In terms of the key sectors over the past couple of years, we've found advanced manufacturing and engineering has created a huge amount of growth. Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire have actually been responsible for half of net national jobs in manufacturing since 2010. So there's over 60,000 jobs in that sector now. Also, you'll probably all be familiar with online shopping, so logistics and distribution has had a huge growth recently. A lot of warehouses have gone to those businesses such as Super Smart Services, ASOS, which are obviously having huge growth at the moment with the world changing. Retail, professional services will always stay as well. So I think in the future, those will continue to grow, but we will be targeting the more digital, tech and medical sectors as well to start bringing those to the area. Just a few stats for you here. Oh, I can't see my screen because I'm in the way. We've had 41,000 jobs created over the past 10 years, and we are aiming for another 103,000 new jobs to be created by 2038. Wages are increasing above national average, so it really shows that skills and recruitment side for the area that we are having those higher paid jobs. And obviously, we've got some great universities and colleges in the area. Staffordshire County Council have a climate pledge to be net zero by 2050, so that's a huge focus for the council at the moment. And there's the green energy hubs based at Keele and Rugeley. Schools as well are all rated good or outstanding, 84% of them, but there's also £241 million of investment that we'll be providing for new pupil places. I think we recognise that again, the bottom figure, that a lot of people will be moving to Staffordshire. You can see that all the new builds that are popping up all over the area. So there is that investment for education and school places. And then the economy continues to grow, and especially in those sectors that we are targeting. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an overview on the Staffordshire side. I know that Jonathan's really focused on the local level. If you do need to get in touch with us, we are doing a lot of upcoming campaigns and work to promote the area, especially for post-COVID. We do see this as a huge opportunity for Staffordshire, that business will be very located here, and we will continue to grow. And there's a lot of investment going on at the moment into transport. So all the details are on there, and looking forward to any questions that you might have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate that, and some really good stats there, some really interesting positive stats. And yes, of course, you know, COVID has been a huge stress and struggle for so many people in so many ways. There's absolutely no doubt in that, but it's good that, yeah, that you've got those sort of positive, you know, positive sort of stories that we can really discuss. So we'll move on to the Q&A now. I'm happy to start the questions, and probably to Jonathan first, but I know, Lauren, you've had a bit of involvement obviously in ASOS and that announcement locally that was announced earlier in the year. How important is that for, you know, we look at the Amazon site in Rugeley, which is sort of closest to Lichfield, isn't it? But how important is it to see, you know, those sort of big new industries, I suppose, or newish industries move into the area and really help fill that availability that we have locally?
I think it's really good, actually, because obviously we've seen during the pandemic, people have gone to more online retail, online shopping. Whilst it will create jobs locally at such an important time as well, it's great to see that they're looking at areas outside of the main kind of cities. So when we did have that initial discussion with them. Although I know Make It Stoke staff were heavily more involved than myself at that time. They did say that with Lichfield, it was just the transport links and how central it was, what they really wanted. I think with a lot of the cities, they can become quite crowded, whilst they looked a bit more regionally and how close we were to Birmingham, but as well, also airports, where we are within the country as well, but also where their other distribution centres are as well. So their other one is within Barnsley, well, Doncaster / Barnsley. I know because I grew up around that area, so I know the area quite well, and how close that is to the M1. But with ourselves, where we are, the M6 toll, it is so great to see how they want to look at areas outside cities, but also London boroughs as well, and also looking at regional perspective. And it's great to see that as well. They just came to ourselves saying Lichfield's in the shortlist, and looking at when they do move here as well, just the jobs that they create, but also upskilling and training, because they're working a lot closely with the job centre as well. But as well, we're looking at definitely getting themselves more involved in the local area and with local communities as well and local businesses. So it is great to see that. And I guess unexpected at the same time, when they did break down the reasons and benefits of the area, it was kind of good to see that Lichfield does remain popular and stand out, especially post-pandemic, but as well in the economic climate we're currently in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, having spoke to Expo Logistics, who are the sort of logistics partner, I know they're very keen to sort of engage with the local community as and when they're in a position to do so, you know, as the site is brought up. So no, that's really, really positive. No, thank you, Jonathan. We're looking on. Got a question from John Moore at Fruition. John, good afternoon now, isn't it? Just past the afternoon. Yeah, a bit of link to my 2040 note. Obviously, yeah, a really good overview of the area, but not always a great amount of detail in terms of timeframes and consulting. Yeah, there is a sort of a need to consult. But what are the sort of timeframes, Jonathan, in terms of some of these projects and some of these working plans for the town centre and for the 4 other areas?
Well, for the local plan, there was obviously that timescale provided. Looking at the question that was asked, I presume it was about the master plan and the different elements of that and that aspect. I know one of my colleagues as part of the major development projects team is on the call, so Helen may want to chip in on that. She's waving now.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to come in, Helen, on the question if you'd like.
She's very much at the forefront of this piece of work with consultants.
Well placed.
I'm on the outside, so I'll tactically pass it over to Helen, as she'll be able to provide more specific, better detail than myself.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Jonathan. And it was really interesting listening to you talking about my projects. It's good fun. So in terms of the work that we're doing, some of the projects are going to take longer than others. So for example, pedestrianisation, we are very keen on that, and we have started the feasibility work, but obviously there is a long legal process, design process that we need to go through on that, and obviously a lot of public consultation. In terms of the other projects, we're very hopeful that the car parking strategy will be going before our cabinet in July for approval, and then a work programme will be drawn up over the summer with projects emanating from that to be implemented in the autumn and ongoing. Some of those projects will be very, smaller scale. Others will be, for example, one that we're very keen on looking at is how we payment for car parks, but also things like electric charging points. There's lots of projects that are proposed within the strategy, and we're just going to work on a work programme to look at how we can fund some of them and how we can implement them. Public realm, we're very excited. There's lots of lovely projects that we know will be coming out of that, and we have a big public engagement event that will be kicking off on the 21st of June, hopefully, subject to Boris's roadmap, but I think we should probably be okay in any event to do that, which will be held for a 2-week consultation on site in the 3 Spires. We'll be holding that, but also with some workshops that people will be able to book onto with our landscape architect, and probably myself bringing up the rear. So that's really exciting. Again, we're hoping that we'll take that once we've completed the strategy in the autumn to our cabinet, and start implementing those projects towards the end of the year, subject to funding. The big one that everybody always asks about is Birmingham road site, of course, and with good reason. So we are working at the moment on the feasibility and viability studies of what we can look to put on that site and what we can deliver on that site. And once we've completed that, we will be going out for public consultation to talk to people about, you know, is that the right thing that we should be looking for Lichfield? Is there anything that people would really like to see? Obviously, given market conditions and the fact that we do really need to bring something forward on that site. It has been part of it's been derelict for a good couple of years now. So there's lots of exciting things happening. That's just a flavour of the projects that my team are undertaking. And if anybody would like to talk further about those, then just give me a call or drop me an email, and I'd be happy to chat to anyone on this call about those projects.
Great stuff. Thank you, Helen. And I think it's those sort of timescales is always the question. But I know there's a huge amount of work. We had a webinar yesterday with Sutton Town Council, and it's just the principle. You know, they're now in a place where they can start really moving forward with these these plans, and that's the key. Yes, and I'm sure, Helen, you'll be more than happy to speak to people offline in a bit more detail. There's some great questions coming in. So thanks to Anne. Anne, good to see you, Anne. And so, question, Jonathan, how are the various elements of this? How are the various elements of the Lichfield development plan coordinated? For example, the electric car charging point is part of the parking strategy and the green agenda. I know Helen briefly touched upon that, but if you wanted to quickly pick up on that as well, I think that's a vitally important part of it, isn't it? Is that
absolutely. Yeah. So everything that we're doing is intrinsically linked, which is why it's been coordinated by one team within the council, the major projects team. And it's my role to make sure that we're not duplicating or we're not doing things in advance of something else coming forward and having to rip up what we've already done. So you will find that some elements are covered by a couple of the strategies, but one strategy will focus in more on, so for example, car parking strategy is going to be looking at the quick implementation of those electric charging points. Green infrastructure, we'll talk about it and we'll bolster that, but we will be hopefully bringing things forward and implementing things quickly as the strategies are being approved. There is one team that's looking after all of it to make sure that we're not duplicating or challenging any work that we're already undertaking. So.
And Helen, I suppose the Staffordshire Council sort of pledge around green, being green by 2050, I suppose very much leads into that as well as a broader, wider council as well.
Yeah, very much so, and the district council's pledge for their climate change pledge as well. So we're very aware that that's all feeding into it.
Great stuff. No, thank you for that, Helen. Another one was from John and from Anne, probably the two sort of similar questions in terms of the the commercial properties in the town centre. We all have such such passion, and it's such a positive place, Lichfield. And I know there's a couple of members that have joined the chamber recently that have started up as sort of newish businesses and have moved to Lichfield because of that town, city centre, atmosphere and the really positive place to be, which is good to hear. Obviously, there are issues with those empty retail spaces. So, Jonathan, just give us an update on the town centre retail side of things as well, if you could.
Yeah, no problem at all. Obviously, we see the same as you. We do have those concerns about vacancy rates increasing, not just here, but regionally, nationally as well. They have historically been low in comparison. They still do, but as well, we appreciate that over how office space is changing, retail space is changing, and businesses' needs. We appreciate that could be a major issue going forward as well. So what we are doing is we are working and speaking with the private landowners locally, so obviously through Spires, understanding what they're doing as well as how can we help them overcome barriers, but as well, is there any initiatives that we can put in place to attract those businesses back? Interestingly enough, we still do get retail inquiries. We've had quite a few recently, and the good news is they do remain. So pre-pandemic, those inquiries, we go back to them and say, are you still interested, or has your business growth or expansion changed? And a lot of them do say no, it still remains on track and on target. We're still looking for those units, and then we try and overcome those barriers. So we are having those conversation with those private landowners and what they're doing with the retail units, but as well seeing who's interested in them and promoting them as well. So, and if there is any barriers, what as a local authority can we do to help overcome them, really? But as well, I know as part of City Centre Master Plan, there was a mention of commercial property advisor coming in. So we'll be probably looking at getting their understanding and experience as well on what can be done, not just for council assets, but as well, what does the overall market look like now, but where will it be going in the future? So we are looking at those vacant units and thinking, no, we are doing something about it, and working with those private property owners and seeing what initiatives can be put in place, really.
Thank you, Jonathan. Wonderful. And a couple of questions around infrastructure from both Pete and from James. Yeah, obviously the roads, congestion, creaking infrastructure, and then the community infrastructure. Again, from James, what's been done in parallel to the work to attract and deliver investment to ensure that infrastructure is delivered alongside that new investment?
With a lot of the sorry, Lauren, were you going to come in there?
No, I was just going to mention the Levelling Up Fund in terms of the infrastructure and transport as well, which is obviously the government have now released all the details, and I know that quite a few of the Staffordshire areas do have a huge focus on the Levelling Up Fund, which the local authorities will control, and that will all be towards infrastructure building and transport, and also culture in areas as well. But I know, Jonathan, you'll probably know more about that on a local level in Lichfield, but I know there will be that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, going on back to the questions on infrastructure, with a lot of the major developments that do happen, either residential or commercial, part of the conversation there is a discussion about the infrastructure with it. Unfortunately, we don't control a lot of the infrastructure. It is with Highways England, the private landowners, or the county council themselves, but we do continue to add pressure onto them to add that transport infrastructure, but as well those community facilities as well. And they are in the conversations when these major planning applications do come forward, and that's the word I was going to use, major planning applications, when they do come forward as well. So they are looked at, but as well we appreciate when they do come forward, there is what's on paper and what comes in reality can be very different. So if there are those pressure points, then we do speak with the county council and Highways England or the private landowner about, look, we need to get something done about this. This issue kind of continues. So there is that ongoing consultation with them to see if anything can be done about it. But it is included within the process as part of it, but also within the local plan review as well, and that process. Okay,
and I think on the similar with just looking through with Pete's question around the infrastructure, I think if we do perhaps look at a sort of a wider response to Staffordshire Council and the right people who have the exact sort of knowledge and awareness, we're happy to pick up that with you, Peter, and with James, perhaps offline. So I'll pick up that with you later as well. So thank you, Peter and James. That sounds great. Couple of last few questions coming in, so that's good. M&S Left Sutton. Yeah, are the thoughts on Debenhams, which is central to the high street, or is that out of the sort of council's control with regards to M&S and the major department stores leaving Sutton and obviously Lichfield with Debenhams closing?
Looking at Debenhams, it is under private ownership, so it's obviously not a kind of council asset. But we are in conversation with the owners and agents and developers about what can be done, what is being, obviously you've got to look at other cases around the country as well in similar M&S and Debenhams stores. What are they doing? Can that be reciprocated here? But as well, what interest is out there, and could it be restructured for the local commercial property market as well? So unfortunately it is under private ownership, but we are in communication with them about what can be done, what interest is there, and can we help overcome those barriers as well. Obviously it was the anchor store, was the anchor store for when Blue Spies came about and was developed within the shopping centre, but we are speaking with the private owners of that to understand what their position is, but as well, where can we help overcome those barriers and what interest is actually there. Absolutely.
Okay, great stuff. Well, thank you for all those questions. Really interesting discussions and some points to pick up off the back of those as well. So if there aren't any other further questions, thank you to Lauren, to Jonathan for your time. It's great to see that positive discussions and those questions that have come in, which is great. I think the overarching key is that there's a real sort of positive and commitment to the area from both councils and make it in Stoke staffs, and people are clearly passionate and positive about the area, which is really good to see. So hopefully that continues to come through in the coming months.